this is the Root Cellar team, and we're here today to talk to you about tomatoes and the different tomatoes that you'll see at the Root Cellar this year. Bryce, do you want to talk a little bit about varieties that we'll have?
Tomatoes come in several varieties. Here we have a red and a yellow slicing tomato that you can see. They look real great. These are, yellow and red, and they come from a greenhouse. Right now, this time of year, pretty soon the field tomatoes will come in, and they'll be slightly more robust in flavor. They taste a little better, but these are pretty great for greenhouse tomatoes, and they are still grown in soil.
It's important to notice
which is key to great flavor.
That we don't typically offer any sort of hydroponic tomatoes, which when I think people think generally of what they might call hothouse tomatoes, the ones without any flavor that are kind of just, don't taste much like a tomato, more like cardboard.
Right.
Those are the ones that are grown in water with just chemical additives. Everything we buy has been grown in soil, and it has been grown with as little of energy inputs as possible. We try to focus on solar and wood-heated greenhouses. So.
Right.
You'll also get some heirloom tomatoes. They'll come on a little bit later in the season. This is a pink girl tomato. It's very nice, good flavor. That we're eating it already in May shows how early the year has been. But here we get some heirlooms. They're sometimes large, sometimes small. They're very different colors. You get green ones, yellow ones, orange ones, even black ones.
Right.
Often funny shapes. They might have lobes or be more football shaped or elongated.
Right. Yeah, and so they're really tasty. So you get your slicers, your heirloom varieties of various kinds, and then you have cherry tomatoes, which we'll have in increasing quantities as the growing season goes along, and they're small, and people a lot of times eat them in salad or just fresh as a snack. The other kind of tomatoes you'll see is plum tomatoes or like Romas and other canners. That's what are typically used to make sauces, marinaras, etc.
Right, but we would say most of these are also pretty good quality for saucing and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But generally, people have used things like Romas or Amish paste to do those kinds of sauces in the past. So.
Exactly.
You mentioned canner tomatoes. What would be the difference between a canner tomato and a tomato like we have here today?
Oh, okay, so good. This is a slicing tomato. You can see if you took your knife and sliced it right across, you'd have a big round slice. But a canner tomato is much more oblong in shape usually, or it could be something that's perhaps a little bit past its prime, and we're selling it as a canner because it might have a bruise on it or some sort of scrape. And so you can still get a lot of use out of that tomato by cooking it down into paste, dicing it up into pieces.
Right.
Yeah, and you'll find a lot of these different varieties in a canner box at the Root Cellar, specifically because other establishments might discard that, throw those products away.
Right.
We'd like to try to minimize food waste as much as we can, and so when something is maybe past its prime, particularly canner apples, tomatoes, peaches, those kinds of things, we try to put them in a seconds bin that allows someone who's eager to process them to get a little bit better value, plus we don't waste the product. So it's exciting for us and for the customer, hopefully. So.
Right. And I think one thing to always think about is, if you've never canned before or you don't know how to do that, there's plenty of resources out there and at the Root Cellar, to learn how to can or process things further. Just one book that we have is Preserving Your Summer Bounty. So this has some great tips in here for how you might make a marinara, how you might can tomatoes, those type of things. So always think about, preserving those things because in January and February, you might want those tomatoes. So.
Yeah, and those of you Bounty Box customers in the middle of July and August might be swamped with what we would call the summer bounty, which is a huge number of tomatoes in varying varieties and styles. So it's exciting to have a resource that you can go to put up a small batch of sauce or something like that out of the products you might have left over from your Bounty Box.
Yeah, and if you come up with a really great salsa or marinara recipe, we'd love you to share it with us so we can share it with the other customers.
Exactly, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'd say the only last thing I would say about tomatoes is, again, just remember that when you store them, don't put them in the refrigerator. Make sure that you put them on your counter or in a cool, dark place. If they do come, from time to time, we get them picked, particularly things like heirlooms, we get them picked a little bit green because we don't want them to perish before you get them home. Sometimes that happens very quickly. So if you get a tomato that's a little greener than you want, put it up in your windowsill for an afternoon or a couple of days. Or if it's really green and you really want to ripen it fast, try a paper bag, put a couple of tomatoes in there together, roll that up. You'll find out that it's going to ripen very quickly. Or if it's a little past its prime, then make sure you kind of put it in a darker place so that it doesn't get so much sunlight.
Yeah, but don't put it in the refrigerator.
Don't.
All right. Well, that's what we wanted to tell you about tomatoes and the different things that you can use with them. Always, if you have questions, feel free to give us a call at 573-443-5055 or check us out on Facebook. We also have Twitter accounts and a blog.
That's foodrefresh.com.
.com. Right.